Scanlon, and on behalf of Carasoft, I would like to welcome you to our Salesforce REI webcast, Manage Grants Efficiently Today. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. The audio portion of this webcast can be heard through your computer speakers or by entering your number in the dial out option on your screen. All lines have been muted to reduce any background noise. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat pod on the left side of your screen, and we will do our best to answer all of your questions at the end. If for some reason we do not get to your questions, our team will certainly follow up with you offline. To tell you a little bit about Carasoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider delivering software and support solutions to federal, state, local, and education customers. Carasoft maintains dedicated teams to support sales and marketing for all of its vendors. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation, so please do not hesitate to call or email us for any of your needs. This webcast is being recorded, and a copy of the presentation will be emailed to you. At this time, I would like to introduce our first guest speaker for today, Trish Felder, Executive Director of Career and Technical Education, State Perkins Director at LCTCS. Trish, I will now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Erin. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We're excited to be coming to you from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where it's 70-plus degrees and feels like it's summertime here. So we're enjoying a very balmy winter day. I'd like to introduce the rest of the guys here this afternoon. We have Gerald Mayu. He's the Associate Director for Fiscal Affairs here at LCTCS. Ton Augustus, the Senior Grants Accounting Analysis, and Raul Sandrena, mispronounced name. He's the Government Grants Project Manager for REI, so we're real happy to have everyone here with us this afternoon. And we're going to give you a quick overview of what we're doing in Louisiana and how it's made our lives easier for us. But let's start with who is Louisiana Community and Technical College System, and what are we going to give you this afternoon? First, we're going to give you an overview, talk to you a little bit about challenges, the GovGrants, our demo, the results that we've seen, and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So Louisiana Community Technical College System, we have 13 public two-year colleges in the state, and those colleges consist of numerous campuses throughout the state. Our vision is to educate and train a minimum of 325,000 Louisiana citizens by the year 2020. So we have a big view of our goals for 2020, and you can see them there on the screen. What we want to do is to improve the quality of life of our state citizens through our educational programs offered through our colleges. We want to increase the opportunities for our Louisiana workforce to succeed through all the skills training. And most of all, we want to provide our citizens with a great opportunity to learn continuously and to be in the field that they would like to be in and to be gainfully employed. We work really closely with our business and industry partners to put together programs of study so that we try to meet their needs as well as our citizens. We all partner with Louisiana Department of Education, which is our K-12 entity here in Louisiana. We work together to bring career and technical education programs that are seamless from secondary to post-secondary, giving our high school students opportunities for dual enrollment, articulated credit, earning industry credentials, and so forth. And Career and Tech Ed is one of Louisiana's most important assets. It helps us have a great economic environment. It benefits all of our citizens, and most of all, it benefits our business and industry partners and encourages them to come to Louisiana to grow or to begin a new business. Let's take a look at why we're here this afternoon, and that is how do we utilize Paul Perkins in Louisiana? What does it look like? LCTCS is the fiscal agent, so the $21+ million comes to LCTCS as a fiscal agent from Octave. From there, we split the funds almost 50-50, and we're one of the few states that split close to 50-50 with our friends at the Department of Education. And as you can see, let's look at the LCTCS side of the coin. We split that $10 million plus into several categories. We have, of course, the pass-through. That goes out to our colleges through their allocation. We have CCTCs, which is College Career Transition Coordinators, and that's through the reserve funds, which means it comes off the top of our pass-through funding, and we use that for special projects. In our case, we use it for secondary to post-secondary transition. We pull off 1/10% for corrections. That also goes out in formula. We have equity, which you can choose 75,000 to 150. Louisiana happens to utilize 100,000. And then we have leadership and admin. And as you see through LDOE, they also have the pass-through, which goes to their K-12, and we have leadership and admin for them as well. So in a nutshell, that's what our funding looks like, and we're going to kind of take apart how we utilize this funding. So the college subrecipients, those are the ones that receive the flow-through money, and this is a formula-based. It's based on their Pell Grant recipients and their WIA recipient for career and technical education. So you can see we have multiple grants. We have a basic grant, we have the CCTC grant, we have corrections, and then we have carryover for all three of those. So we have multiple applications that our subrecipients are required to do. LDOE, we utilize a memorandum of understanding with them. So they receive their flow-through and they receive their administration and leadership funds as well. And you'll see as we move along that LDOE, because they are too a subrecipient, they follow the same process as our colleges in that they do an application, they submit a budget for approval, and so forth, and everybody is a reimbursement-based funding. You'll see at LCTCS we have admin, leadership, and equity. We also are utilizing the eGrant system for those funds as well. Our goal is to have everything into the electronic grant system. So as we look at why we did this, what were our past challenges? If you are currently using paper application process, you know the woes that you are facing. You send out your application all nice and neat in the order that you would love to get the returned application in. It does not come back that way. It comes back however they decided to put it together, and as you're trying to review it, you have to go through the process of organizing it and making it work for you. We had different processes going on. Everybody was not consistent with the way they completed their application, the way they turned the applications in, the way they did or did not do reimbursements, the way they did or did not do quarterly reports and end-of-the-year reports. And it was taking forever to read an application. Just to review an application was 4 to 5 hours. We have cut that review time more than in half. It takes 1 to 2 hours now for that initial review, which when you have a office of one, which is myself, and your finance partners, you have to be as efficient as you can. So we were really looking at the way to make this work so that we could be efficient, get things done, and have time to do some of those other obligations that we really needed to do to have a better program. I'm going to turn now over to Gerald Mayu to discuss some of the other challenges that we were facing.
Yeah, on the fiscal side, we had a lot of the same issues that Trish mentioned on the Program Act side, as far as highly paper-based system, and we just, wasn't adding any value to the process. We were just receiving this paper from someone, keyed into our accounting system, and we didn't have a lot of time for going any more in depth and reviewing the actual reimbursement, and we wanted to get away from that. We too have a very limited staff here at the board office. We have one grants person who not only is responsible for Perkins, but our other grants. And as far as reporting, we basically had spreadsheets. Each grant that we had for each recipient, we were keeping track of their line item budget and spreadsheets, and it just left a lot of room for error, and we wanted to get away from that. The manual effort that we went through, it just, it was very tedious, and we needed a better solution.
Okay, thank you, Gerald. And Tom, could you tell us just for a few minutes here, what about the discrepancies that we were seeing between LCTCS records and recipient records, and what kind of headaches that has caused?
Yeah, because the process is manual, a lot of the times
our records didn't agree because, for instance, I may have changed something on their records that they weren't privy to until after the fact. And we have to go back and forth. I have to send them spreadsheets, requests that were changed so they could see where the discrepancy was. And sometimes it took a couple of weeks to get them the information. So we was always processing the duplicate information over and over. So this process now eliminates that error-prone issue that we've been having with that.
Very good. And our recipients are able to see some real-time information as well. We're not spinning our wheels, which is very exciting for all of us involved. So when we look at LCTCS needs and what we were really looking for, we knew that technology was the path forward. You know, we needed to be caught up with the times. We needed to get things done in a timely fashion. We needed a centralized grant management system that was going to track everything, the awards, the MOUs, all the administrative expenditures, and everything else. And this really hit home really well when we were audited by OCTAE, the Office of Career Technical Adult Education, from the federal side of the house, and we had to gather up all of our little paper files and say, well, here they are. It took months to get everything organized because finance had pieces, I had pieces, so we had to decide who's pulling what, pull it all together, and with this system, we're able to have everything in one place. So on a day-to-day basis, it makes life easier for us, but when it comes to auditing, it's really going to make life easier for us. So Gerald, could you talk to us about the other improvements that we're seeing and the needs that we had?
Yep. Along with the process, we got the, expertise of REI to come in and, kind of help us, all get in a room and standardize our processes. And we also have other grants, and they are kind of involved too, and we hope to have those implemented down the road. But the standardized workflows make things a lot more black and white as far as, when you get a request, here's the person that's going to approve it. If it's not approved, it's going back to the submitter, and so on. It's improving monitoring. It allows us to, on the fiscal side, to get more involved in the award process and actually look at the applications because we're not spending all our time, just keying data in, rekeying data in, and running reports based on spreadsheets. And part of that was due to our financial system that couldn't do that. But this just goes above and beyond that because it pulls everything into one place. It's increased, we've lost positions because of budget cuts. So we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now without this system with just one person that does the day-to-day grant piece on the fiscal side. So we decided to go out for an RFP. We wanted it to integrate with our accounting system so there wouldn't be duplicate entry. We wanted one single repository for all of the records. We wanted it to be easily configurable, and we wanted a hosted solution. So we went through the RFP process. We started in May of 2015. We signed the contract in November of 2015, and the first rollout for Perkins was in June of 2016. So right around 6 months, I guess, for the implementation of the first rollout of Perkins.
Thank you, Gerald. And one of the things that we learned along the way is when we first set up the system, it was great. We were able to say this is what we need. REI was able to give us that. But as we move more into the system, we'll say, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? So we're improving every time we go because keep in mind this is our first fiscal year to utilize the system. It's been fantastic so far. So I would like to give Raul the opportunity to talk to you about REI and all of their great work.
Thank you, Trish. Good afternoon, everyone. Rahul Sunrani with REI Systems, Technical Project Manager, have led multiple implementation for REI. So REI is based in Washington, D.C., and as you would guess, being in D.C., we do a lot of government work. So most of our work, I would say majority of our work was with federal government, state government, and local government. And of that work, I would say significant portion is about grants. Doing grants, and what you see out there is we've been doing grants for over 20 plus years. There's some infographic there that shows the grant dollars that get awarded through our systems, the number of applications we process, different programs we serve, and how many users we support. So what we say is when it comes to grants, grant is in our DNA. I mean, I can't walk in my office 2 steps and not find a person who doesn't know grants. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's our niche. We have learned a lot over 20 plus years. We have developed a lot of best practices, and you know, we are the industry leader when it comes to managing the grants and supporting the grants and building the grant system. Kind of the slide there kind of shows you, I won't go through the detail there, but shows you that we started with NASA and HRSA, Department of Energy, Department of Justice, and so on. So if I kind of go back to our previous years back implementation, and some of them with FEMA I was involved, with Department of Energy I was involved managing those projects. It was custom solution that we would build for every customer, and we'll do this again and again. So we're solving the same problem again and again. Also, they're all custom proprietary tailor-made solution where these would take 3 to 5 years to build. You're talking about multi-year, multi-million dollars work to get these things done. And over the year, we saw so many best practices, so many common ways. And it's like, why don't we generalize? We have the domain expertise here. So that's kind of the promise to what I'm talking about here is called GovGrants. So GovGrants is a product. It's a COTS product, commercial off-the-shelf product that REI has developed, and it's built on Salesforce. So what is Salesforce? Salesforce is software as a service. It's the biggest platform as a service that you can go out there. They are the leader in the space. So what we are able to do is build a grants management solution on top of Salesforce, and what it does is we are able to kind of get to the end result fairly quickly. So for example, coming back to Louisiana, we were able to go from start to end in a matter of months. And if I compare that to my traditional software development, this would have taken me at least 3 to 5 years. So you're able to move fast. You don't have to worry about single sign-on. You do not have to worry about as much about the integration. You do not have to worry about making it mobile friendly. It's all inherent in the underlying platform for the Salesforce. So what is a GovGrants? GovGrants is a COTS product. It's a pluggable module, and depending on the customer needs, we take these pluggable modules and configure them. So for example, specifically to Louisiana LCTCS, we have the grantor capacity where LCTCS is a grantor giving money to different colleges, and these colleges are the recipient. And based on their need, we are able to connect these on and off these modules, and our objective is to build a solution 80% through configuration, not through coding. And that's where we have cost saving, the time saving, and so on. So next slide quickly kind of shows you the grant life cycle. So GovGrants is end-to-end product that defines all aspects of grant life cycle. So the bottom here, you could see that we start from planning phase to the application phase of the grant life cycle. Application goes through review, they get awarded, and once they're awarded, they go through the post-award and finally close out. On the top, you see the phases from the recipient or grantee perspective. So they look for a funding opportunity or solicitation. They submit their application. If they get awarded, now they can do their award management, and that's what's happening, and that's what Ton and Joe were talking about earlier. It's a single centralized grants management system where you can see the data real time. So quickly, I kind of already talked about the Salesforce.com. That's the underlying platform. And here's like 6 pillars of the foundation reason why we picked Salesforce, right? Again, it's a software as a service, platform as a service, so we're not doing any hardware. Now, we're not buying any software. We do not need any DBAs, any IT folks to support when the system is launched. So you see all that overall total cost of ownership saving here. From get-go, from underneath the hood, it's mobile. We can connect to any services. We can put this on a cloud, FISMA compliant environment, so security is pretty tight. So the key reason why we picked Salesforce as a partner to build GovGrants. So with that, I think I would like to kind of go and show you the actual product, actual LCTCS implementation. And what you want to plan is here's the plan for what we'd like to go over in the demo. I'll start with just high-level overview walkthrough of what the product looks like. And then team here will talk about specific phases. So you'll hear about the grants planning phase, where we're going deep into funding opportunity, funding codes. That's part of the planning process. After the planning, you go into the application intake, which is the application phase, and application goes through the review process. After the review, you issue an award, you create a sub-grant, and that's what the grant phase is. So we'll show you a grant. We'll show you how system generates a grant award notice, which LCTCS had to do it manually before. And then a concept of master budget, so there is no discrepancy between what the LCTCS see as their record versus what the recipient see. It's real time. Everybody sees the same information at any given point in time. And then we'll talk about the amendment process in our post-grant, and we'll also show our rich reporting and dashboarding capability as part of the demo. So let me go ahead and move to the demo. All right, so I'm actually logged in as Trish, as the program manager. So we have different roles, different profiles in the GovGrants, in the eGrant system, and these profiles are typically referred as the program manager. They have the complete ownership of managing a grant program. Then we have something called project officer, who typically would be in assistance roles to a program manager. We have other profiles such as fiscal director. They're looking at the fiscal aspect of it, or fiscal officers, and so on. So those are the key roles, and what I'm logged in right now is the program manager, so you can kind of see the whole thing together. What you see there on the top level navigation is the different phases of the grant life cycle. So we have a planning phase, application phase, grant phase, post-grants, and then reporting and dashboard. Again, this is the internal view. When it comes to eGrants, when it comes to GovGrants, there are three different gateways or three different portals. This is the internal portal, which is the government, what LCTCS sees. Then the recipient community sees. They have a different portal, but their tabs are different. They have different access. They see different things. And we also have a portal for the subject matter experts. A lot of grants, they require external reviewers from colleges or somewhere else who are the subject matter expert to come and review the applications that have come in. So that's the review portal. So these are on the top, as I said, are the grant lifecycle phases. On the left navigation is a global search. So at any given point in time, you could zero in, kind of like a Google search, and get to a specific information that you're looking at. Below that is your concept of task. Now, task is a very fundamental component of our system. When it comes to managing grants, and a lot of folks here would testify to that, it's a pretty complex space, and remembering a process and each process, how to get to it and follow through the 20 clicks, we realize is we need to design the system in an intuitive way where they can answer the mail and go directly to the task that's due. So task is nothing but an action that's pending on somebody. So you come in, you click on your pending items, and you see, hey, here are the things that I got to look into. In my inbox, I got to start answering the mail. It lists the task by the phases, and then it also lists the task by due date. I can see across within my internal organization or, again, my recipient to see if they are complying with the task. And if somebody is not, those reporting are pretty native. You get it out of the box. So if you are looking at it as a criteria, and especially in context of a competitive grant, you could look into the compliance and completion of the activities and so on. You will see that these phases are, you will see the task will repeat across each phase. Also, there's a concept of an activity. So what is an activity? So activity is kind of a major procedure. So for example, let's say LCTC is going to publish a notice of funding availability or funding opportunity. They'll create an activity. That funding opportunity now has to be reviewed by other folks within the department so that they'll create the task for it. Another inherent aspect of the system is that all these tasks, as tasks is being created, system will send an email notification. If somebody has a task due on them, an email notification is going to go out. If task not being completed, an email notification is going to go out. When somebody finishes a task, an email goes out and task gets created to somebody who's next in the command to work on it. So all that follow-up, all the notification system automatically takes care of it, and you're not spending any of time doing the communication, doing the follow-ups. The system kind of helps you out with that. Also, across the board, you would see that with whichever record, whichever screen I am on, I can apply advanced filter, I can download as a PDF, I can download as a CSV, and so on. So with that, I think we should move into the next part of the demo, and I'll pass it back to Trish.
Thank you, Raul. So we're going to let you get a quick view into what it looks like when you're inside the system and what's going on. You know, Raul talked of funding opportunities, and let me just explain real quick what that is. You create a funding opportunity to go with every one of the applications that you need. For example, we have the flow-through funds that you remember from a previous slide. That's the money that goes out to the colleges or to K-12. So when we're sending that out to the colleges, we have X number of dollars. That is the amount of money in that funding opportunity. So that's how we start the process. We have to create a funding opportunity and then get it moving so that that flow of funds goes out where it needs to go. So we have, this is what it would look like when we have a funding opportunity put together. You will see that this is Perkins Basic Carryover, which is one of the pots of money that we have. So we create the information within this so that we can assign it to the recipients that should complete an application, and they'll get a little notice telling them that there's a funding opportunity there that they need to complete. All of the information you see on the screen currently is there from when our recipients put their information in and create their profile to be a user, so it repeats itself. Excuse me. They don't have to recreate the information. It just rolls over into this particular screen so we can see what it is. When we want to select forms, there are some forms that are required. There are some forms that are optional. And you will see that a cover sheet's always required. They have to do a budget narrative. That's always required. And then there are some forms that are optional based on the information that's in their budget. For example, if they're going to expend some funds on salaries and benefits, there are some forms that have to be completed, like a personal action form. They have to do a spreadsheet that shows us everyone that's paid with Perkins and then other funding sources that may make up the rest of their salaries, and so forth and so on, job descriptions and that sort of thing. So those are required. We have assignments of who's going to do what. I'm the program staff. My other half, Tawn, is the fiscal staff. She and I look at everything. We also have, I have another person that assists me some, but she's mostly our monitoring person, and occasionally we'll put her in so she's learned how to utilize the system as well, just in case, because we wanted to make sure there were multiple people that could utilize the particular system. You can see that these are our recipients. We recipients for each of the funding streams that we're utilizing and doing a funding opportunity for, so they know who they are, what they're supposed to do, and it's been very simple for them. There's also the attachments and there's the approval history, so you can see what's happening, who's approved, what started, what needs to be done, those kind of things. So we can look in here and see many, many things. We wanted to give you a little bit of information about the funding codes and how are those attached from a fiscal perspective. And this is something, remember I said that my other half, my partner, Tawn, we have to work together to make this work. Tawn is the one that assigns the funding codes from the fiscal point of view. So Tawn, if you could talk to that, please.
Okay, the funding codes are basically used to identify and track the flow of funds, the funding opportunity that was created. Once we get those funding codes out there, we associate them to the funding codes. If you, Trish went back to the flow of funds, how the breakdown of between the pass-through, the CCTCs, and what have you. That's how the coding is created. Once we get the coding, we associate that fund to the appropriate funding opportunity / award.
So I'll go ahead and move to the application phase. So we talked about the planning, we covered the funding opportunities, and we talked about the connection between how funding opportunities are connected with the funding codes and how they move over to when the sub-grants are given. So with that, let me click on the application and
so you can see that the application page was empty, and Raul had to go to the left side and create reviews, and that's so we can see the work that we've done. Because obviously we're past the application phase. We've already looked at all of them, we've read them, we've approved them, and so forth and so on. So Raul is going to select one for us so that we can delve inside what this looks like. You can see there are review steps that we had to do, so he's going to click on that and show us what that looks like. He's going to go to application decisions, and this is an important piece. In our organization, when we're reading the original applications, it's not just in-house that reads these applications. We have outside entities that assist us with reading as well. So we have someone from Department of Education that reads a few. We have Louisiana Economic Development, Workforce Commission, and so forth and so on that assist us with reading our applications. So we have a well-rounded look at the way the application should be. We also have a review rubric that we've used for a long time. We had to modify it some to go into the system. But when someone goes in to review an application, that rubric pops up, and the rubric goes right along with the application itself. So it's really easy to utilize. We each complete the rubric with all of our thoughts on how that particular application looked. We are able to put, yes, it meets the standards for that particular question, so forth, or no, it does not. We are able to put why we said yes or why we said no. If we need them to go in and do an amendment or to revise what they have done in the past on the original application, we can put that in there. So it's really a simple process, and everything is in order. But remember, I told you earlier, sending out that paper application, things are not always in order. But when we're working through this system, everything is in order. And as you can see, we're having a technical difficulty. Okay, so here we are. This is what the review decision looks like. You'll see that all of the applications there are listed. You will see there's an action box, the application itself, the project title, the applicant organization, the reviews. You see the little people? The little green people mean, in this case, in this particular application process, there were 2 reviewers. If it's green, that means that that reviewer actually looked at it. And you can click on them, and you can see who it was, and you can see what they did. So this is Suella. You can see the questions, the rubric, what the response was, what the evidence was. How did we know this was a yes? How did we know it was a no? So we have this entire rubric that we utilize. So this is individually. And once this is finished, then REI was kind enough to create a form that actually puts all of the reviews together. So when I look at this form, I can see that Ton and I were the ones that reviewed this one. I can see what the answers were to each of the rubric points. And then when I send out a request for a revision, if there are no's and ask them, then I have all of the reviews there right in front of me. It's really easy to do. If everything's a yes and this is approvable, then I can see that everything's a yes and we can go on with the approval process. So having this combined having them run these reports and merge them together makes a huge difference in the efficiency of getting the application reviewed and approved.
I also have the application open now, so I think we can talk.
Excellent. Thank you, Raul. So we have the application open now as well. You will see, again, this is Suella. There's the applicant profile, which was picked up from their profile that they put in when they became a user, which is really easy. The next tab is the application itself, or the grants narrative. We elected to do ours in questions or statements asking for particular information. We did, however, limit the number of characters, because if you don't, our folks will just write a novel for you and it takes forever to read it. And what we wanted was the answer. So give us a direct answer. This has made it really, really easy. We did the questions or the points that we needed based on statute, on Perkins statute, and what was required in the law. So it goes straight by statute, every single question, and then it goes, the review form matches completely with this in each of those tabs above. So I'm going to ask that Tawana in a minute talk about the summary budget. Could you go back just a sec?
Sure.
There's a required use of funds in Perkins, and I'm sure if you're using federal grants, you have this in all of them. You notice that they have to indicate if the source of funds will happen to be Perkins or not. If it's not Perkins, they don't have to check it, and they can put the other source in the written area. But all of these do have to be checked to make sure that it's done correctly. Tawan's going to talk to you now about the budget itself.
Okay, once the application budget summary is entered into the system, both the subrecipient and LCTCS can see how the categories are labeled in the, click on that button, Raul, thank you. And in those categories, it details, for this one, for instance, it only has one entry, but you can do multiple entries in the budget category explaining what the uses of funds are going to be used for. Can you click out for me? In this form, there's business rules that are integrated within the budget summary to prevent users from entering data into the form that exceeds established thresholds. For instance, in admin, costs are limited to 5%. If attempted to go over, system will reject that entry. That goes for salaries and benefits and equipment as well. There's a threshold for those items. So the subrecipient can't go over, can exceed at all in that budget category.
So I think we talked about the application process. The application goes through, the application comes in. Trish talked about the application review process. And then after the review, what we do is we move to the grant phase where the application has turned into a grant. So again,
If I could.
Oh, please.
I'd like to make another comment about the budget, because this was a really big deal to me and a question that I asked everyone that actually answered the RFP, and that was, can we make this form interactive? For example, if the recipient puts some dollar amount in the travel category, they have to also provide a spreadsheet that details that travel. If they do not do that, then they are not able to submit their application. So we have several actually of the categories that are interactive that they have to put backup documentation to, because, you know, with any federal grant or any grant period, you have certain guidelines that you have to follow, and they could just put travel and it could be to Hawaii, you know, and that's not going to meet the criteria that we need for this particular grant. So we asked them to give us more details, which we really appreciate. Also, in this one, you can't see it because this is not a basic grant. This is a CCTC. But in the basic grants, we also have performance indicators, which, as you know, you have to keep up with certain information to justify utilization of funds in the correct manner. And we actually have the performance indicator information in the grant. And if they don't meet those, it actually triggers them to do an improvement plan. So it has a lot of features in it that causes the recipient to finish everything that they should. Instead of us having to say, hey, you didn't meet this criteria, you need to do an improvement plan, the system is telling them for us, which really cuts down on that back and forth time.
So based on the budget category, we are able to configure what supporting documents are required. That way, what you get as the data as an application, you get a high-quality application and cuts down the back and forth.
Correct.
So application has gone through the review now, and then you create a grant out of it, right?
We do.
So we can talk to the grants. I'll go ahead and show you a basic grant here.
So you will see that the overview page looks the same as the previous one that we looked at. It has the grant information, the recipient information, and all the pieces just like the rest of them. Then you will see at the top there's a revision tab. And that revision tab is going to keep track of any kind of revisions that have been made. So you will see that there was an amendment that was done. There's a new one. That new one is probably, I don't know why it says new, because it's been amended and approved.
So it starts with the new, and then after the amendment, you have the second one there. So
there you go. The first one's called a new, the second one's called amendment. You can tell that I've never paid attention to that because I'm just concerned with them getting done and not what they're actually called. So this is a really great way to see what the amendments are, what they've done. You can go back and look at them. You can look at them in any order you need to look at them in. The system saves everything that you do. So it's not like a recipient can go in and erase something and put something new. It's going to save all the documentation so you can keep a running track of what's going on.
If you're used to a paper-based folder, think of this grant like a paper-based folder, and every time an award is issued, there's a revision get created. So we have point in time. Everything is consolidated, put into a single place in the grant folder, whether it's the revision, whether it's the grant budget, reimbursement request, progress reports, and so on. Don, you can talk about probably more about the grant budget here as well in the evening, right?
Well, in the grant budget, it shows real time about how the budget, how the users are entering their information into the system. It gives an accurate report of the amount. It includes the revised budget amount as well, year-to-date that was spent, and the remaining budget amount. It also provides a better workflow process that allows insight into the status of each task for both the recipients and LCTCS. So as the revision status said, it incorporates whatever your original budget is with the revision that was created. It doesn't change the overall budget information, but it does change the line items on it.
Okay. So and again, to those, as we refer to it as a master grant budget, so you could see it in real-time reflection, and then all the reimbursement referring to those expenses are listed right here. You can go in, you can see what happened. You could also see the check number that comes from the, again, this is the integration, Joe, that you want to talk about with the financial system where we are able to take the check number.
Yes, and this is something that was important from a fiscal side, because even if we had an electronic system, we didn't want to have to extract that data and then key it into our accounting system, and we wanted something that would integrate. So REI created a file that we export. We choose to do it monthly, but I think you can do it more often if you choose to. And we import it into our accounting system. It creates the entries there and the payments. We process the payments through our accounting system, and then once those are done, we create a file from our accounting system and import it back into eGrants, and it provides the check number and the check date to the recipient so they can see when they were paid and what the payment number was.
And the next component of a grant is the progress report. Trish, you want to kind of talk about?
Absolutely. So we require our recipients to do quarterly reports. This system forces them to do the quarterly report because it sends them a reminder, it's time to do your quarterly report. Well, they've been doing their reimbursements on a monthly basis, which is what we require, but let me tell you, when they were doing the paper, they weren't doing that, but now they have to do a monthly basis. So now their quarterly reports due. If they do not choose to send in their quarterly report, then they are not allowed to put in the next reimbursement. So not having that report in stops them from asking for their reimbursement, which has made this so efficient for us because Tawn and I can look at this and see, for me, I can see programmatically. Are they spending the funds the way they said they were going to spend the funds? Are they actually meeting the LAP, the application? Are they spending funds in a timely manner? Have they ordered equipment and so forth and so on so that it is received and in place so that students in this fiscal year can actually use this? So on a programmatic side, these quarterly reports make a huge difference. Tawn, can you speak to the fiscal side?
Yes, on the quarterly reports, it displays 3 months in that quarter that was paid against that particular award. And if you go down, you could see those the amounts for each month. And this one is July, August, and September. And it shows the status, the total amount requested, and the request type. It gives the subrecipients an idea of what was paid in that quarter. And basically, it eliminates the process of going in paperwork trying to find out what was paid manually. So that helps out a lot.
It's absolutely a time saver, and one of the nice things about the budget summary that Tawn talked to you a few minutes ago about, and same thing here, is it keeps that running total of this is what you said you were going to spend in this category, this is how much you've expended, this is what you have left, because we do not want to have a large amount of carryover funding at the end of the fiscal year for our recipients. We want them to spend down to having no more than 5% left, so they can see on a regular basis what they've expended, what they have left, and whether or not they need to adjust what they thought they were going to spend in certain categories in a timely manner. So that is increased efficiency on their side as well.
Right, so that takes us to the post-grant, and one of the important activities that happens in the post-grant is, I'm sure, the amendments, right? So you want to talk about your experience, Tawn, with the amendments that happen in the system, and how's that working out compared to the old days on the paper-based system?
It's easier to keep track of the amendments because they're all there. They're all out there for review. It updates the budget information in real time. In the past, we used to have to wait and do a report from an Excel document to find out what their total reimbursements were, how much the budget changed per category. And it also gives you the budget amount, the year-to-date spent, the remaining budget, the requested revised budget, but it also gives you the adjustment amounts associated with this particular one. And here you can see where the change is affected.
So it went from $7,000 of an initial budget to $4,994.
Correct.
Is how they revised it in this example here.
And another thing that this amendment page forces the recipient to do, let's say that they're decreasing salaries by X number of dollars, then they're going to have to increase another category by X number of dollars, because at the end of the day, their total is their total, and that total has to remain the same. So it catches if they make a mathematical error somewhere, and that's something that Tawn had to do in the past manually.
And if there's a sheet or form associated with that change, for instance, if salaries did change, they would have to go back and readjust the form that they previously submitted to show the revised amount. And that goes for any category who requires a form associated with it.
Then we're running pretty close to the time. Can you, Tawn, quickly talk about the reports and maybe give an example of the report that you use quite often?
I often use the monthly reports.
And how easy is to get to these reports?
It's relatively easy. It shows, for this particular one, it shows the range from when we first started the award through till now. So you'll see the organization name, the total amount requested to date, some invoices number. If you don't see an invoice right there, it's because it's pending at the moment, but because it's showing what's in there now but hadn't been paid, as well as what's in process. So you're going to see check numbers on some and some not.
And how easy is it for you as a business user to kind of, let's say when we add a column to it, do a different grouping?
Yeah, the customization is very easy, and also you can export the data to an Excel document and further manipulate how you want it to.
Okay. And briefly, Trish, you want to
go with that specific information. So this is really handy if you want to quickly look for something and you don't want to have to go deep into the system. You can just pull it up rather quickly. So we're really excited about this new feature. And we're enjoying the system so much that we weren't satisfied with just doing the application process. We've decided that we want to do our performance indicator report. That is part of the consolidated annual report that we turn into the federal government every year. So we're working on that now. It's almost finished. We're really excited about that. And since we really want everything Perkins in the same system, we are getting ready to start looking at putting all of our documentation on here that has to do with program review, audits, monitoring, and so forth for our folks that are our subrecipients. So when we're done, this is going to be an all-inclusive, everything Perkins will be in this one place. So we're really excited. We implemented this, as we said, back in June, and we had very few challenges. And one of the exciting things, our subrecipients, not one of them has given us a negative comment. They didn't complain about it. They didn't say it was not user-friendly. They've been excited the whole time. When we decided to train for it, we had them go ahead and complete their paper application because we were on a time schedule that we want to get everything approved by July 1. So we trained in early June. They brought their paper applications to the training. We trained them in a computer station, and they were able to utilize the real information as they learned about the system. So they love it because it's decreased the workload for them. It's decreased the workload for us. It's helped them be much more compliant in everything that they do. And data, what about the data quality, Gerald? What do you think?
Yeah, as we touched on throughout, the whole demo, the system really prevented a lot of data input errors that we used to have to check for in the past. So they could not submit budgets or reimbursements that did not follow the guidelines that we set in the system. So that's really helped streamline things on our side.
Very helped us also to be able to do their grant award notice. It's helped us to be able to do every piece that we have to do. Everything's automated, and it has made our life so much easier, and we're very, very excited about that. So we've been in business with this launch since June of 2016, and you can see that we've supported 13 funding opportunities, at least 74 applications. We've awarded approximately $22 million. We've processed disbursements up to $5.5 million already. We've looked at and completed 100-plus amendments or modifications to the award. And for compliance issues, we've tracked and monitored approximately 4,000 activities that we've had at least 90% closure on. The reporting's easy. There's pre-built features into it. We're working on our annual performance report. It's also for our auditing needs. So in a nutshell, we are very satisfied with the product so far. We hope to use it for years to come. It's made our life easier. It's a great relationship that we have with our partners at REI. So we're real excited about all the work that we've done. Raul?
Thank you, Trish, and I think we are to a point where we can take a few questions at this point.
Sounds good.
Yes, at this time, if anyone has any questions, please direct them to the chat pad on the upper left-hand side of your screen. It looks like we have a few questions coming in from the audience. First question, what were the reasons for LCTCS to pick GovGrants and Salesforce over a traditionally based solution?
When we had demonstrations from each of the companies that submitted the RFP, we had specific questions that we wanted answered, and we asked those same questions of every one of them. We looked at what they offered, compared to the price or the per ingredient, if you would, of the items that we needed. Their willingness to customize, to really make it what LCTCS needs, and they were the best product at the best price for what we needed.
Thanks, Trish. Next question. Were you at all concerned about system adoption? What was done to ensure a smooth adoption?
We were not concerned at all because I think, personally, I was so excited about it and so enthusiastic that I had no qualms about anything. And I had been talking to my folks in the field for at least a year that we were going through this kind of process. So they were all excited about it, and they were believing that it was going to make life easier for them, and it has. And because of the excellent training and the excellent customer service and direct support that we get here at the system office, but that our subrecipients receive. I mean, they can contact us. They can go on the help desk. They get help immediately. The turnaround time for addressing challenges is less than 24 hours. So that has made the transition extremely painless.
Next question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the training approach, and how long did it take to train LCTCS internal staff as well as the recipient community?
LCTCS staff, we were trained. Raul and his team came down and spent a couple of days with us, and he trained us on each of the aspects. So we learned how to be a subrecipient. We learned how to be the LCTCS staff. We learned how to be the fiscal, the programmatic. We learned every aspect of it. We took turns playing the different roles. So it helped us see, number one, what we needed to do on our end. And he asked us to try to break the system, so we had a blast doing that. We tried to break it, but we were not successful, I must say. But we were well trained over a couple of days, and we have ongoing training. So they were very generous with training one aspect at a time. So we got through the application process and how we do that, and then we've been trained on other avenues. How do we do the reporting and so forth and so on. So we were trained in increments as we utilized. So we were trained in one area, learned how to do that, went to another area. Our subrecipients, we brought them in, and I'm speaking of our college subrecipients, we brought them into a central location. We were there for a day and a half, and Raul and his staff trained them on every aspect. Like I said earlier, they brought in their actual application. They used real information, real time, so they were able to see any kind of problems they were going to have or challenges they were going to have utilizing their real application. And they appreciated that and enjoyed the fact that when they walked away from training that day, that they had accomplished the work that needed to be accomplished.
At this time, I would like to thank our panelists for being with us, as well as our participants for joining us today. We hope this webcast has been helpful for you and your organization. If you have any further questions or would like to request more information, please feel free to contact us. Our contact information is displayed on your screen, so please do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.